This is Daryl as a service for Regarding 365, talking with Jeremy Thake. Finally.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we've exchanged a few tweets, a few tips, whatever. We're both in the live streaming space. It's been a lot of fun.
It has been good, actually. I've been interested to kind of just get a bit of a gauge of how well this has gone for you guys this week, and seeing like who's engaging that isn't at Ignite. It's been a crazy conference, completely crazy conference in terms of the size of things. The one thing I have learned here is there's people camped here that aren't going to the actual sessions. They're staying in the expo hall, they're streaming the sessions on there with a headset on, and then when the session finishes, they just get up and go to booths because they don't want to do the 20-minute walk to the West Wing and then come back. I walked 7 miles on the first day.
Yeah, I would believe that, and that's a smart technique. They could have been doing that down at, I think, Community Central, because you've got that blasting great big hall, which they'll be showing that off. But at least they're right here to jump out,
next
look at
to
swag,
us.
Network, pick up some swag, that sort of thing. So there was an interesting announcement around LinkedIn at the conference, and it was really quite amazing in Keynote to see what they're going to do with bringing in profile data and roaming a profile basically using LinkedIn. That's my understanding. What did you understand about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at Hyperfish, and it won't be producty at all, but we're all about completing user profiles because most people's Active Directories are missing information, right? So LinkedIn is a good source of personal information about someone. Not necessarily going to be authoritative that you'd want to use inside your organization. The way I see it is that, I don't know if you ever use Zopni or... Zopni was an add-in for Outlook, which is inbox spelt backwards, which kind of disappeared off the map. And the idea is that when you clicked on an email, the Zopni would show you more information about that person from LinkedIn and other sources based on matching on names and stuff.
Didn't Microsoft try to do that for a bit with LinkedIn?
They did with the LinkedIn add-in, which when I was at Microsoft in the extendability team, that was a great demo, and that kind of fell apart once they got acquired, unfortunately. And so what this new announcement is for now, in first release tenants coming very soon. And what was interesting was it's a smaller group of first release customers, and there doesn't seem to be a way of opting into that group. And I think the declaration
private
from...
first release, I think is what they call it?
Yeah, the declaration by J.M. Aitken, who's the PM in engineering, was that they want to learn a bit before they go full bottle with this stuff. And one of the first learnings they've had is if you're in that first release, it's opt-in for the user. So there's not this magic switch that an Office 365 administrator can do that says, go give consent that everyone that's got a LinkedIn profile, when they go to a contact card now and there's a LinkedIn logo, when they click on that, they'll get a button where they have to go and click login, and they'll have to consent that LinkedIn has access to basically connect the LinkedIn information and the Office 365 information. So that's one challenge. It's not going to just rapidly become used in your organization because a user's going to have to go through that hop of consent.
They still have to prompt it, and that's fair enough. You do need to get permission to access people's profiles. Yeah,
and I think the reason they've done that is this privacy concern that the LinkedIn information in my mind is it's mine. It's not Hyperfish's as the company I work for. And so that's what they've had to do to satisfy the personal privacy concerns. On the flip side, there's a control for Office 365 administrators to turn this off altogether.
Of course.
So if the organizations don't want that in return, they'll turn that off too. So that's kind of the consent privacy interest thing. So that was my first okay, they've realized that people are like, I don't want this to work, so turn it off, which there's a lot of people that do that with the Office graph. Don't like Delve, let's turn off the Office graph.
Turn off groups for some reason.
Don't do it, turn off groups. Why would you do that? Fix your security in your documents. It's not Delve's problem, it's your problem. And intelligent search is going to make that a problem regardless if you turn the graph off. But then the other aspect of this is that in first release, what they've shown us is that all you're going to see is previous job history and the education.
Right. Yeah.
I would have liked a little bit more, which is a shame. And then the other big challenge they have, and I always kind of think everyone's as efficient as I am, most people's LinkedIn isn't logged in or registered with my work profile. Because you've been on LinkedIn for 10 odd years or however long it's been. Mine was a personal email account. And so LinkedIn can't intelligently go, me@jeremythake.com, which is my LinkedIn username, is linked to jeremy@hyperfish.com. So if I click on Daryl Webster's name in an email, it might come back and go, there's 4 Daryl Websters, which one is it?
Yeah.
And you have to tell that add-in that's what it is. And I think that's not bad. They're going to crowdsource those things. But that's kind of going to only help your organization out. That data isn't being leveraged on LinkedIn, that if Alistair got an email from Daryl Webster and it's your email address, personal one, it knows that it's mapped to that. So there's a little bit of like, they think that you'd assume the data was there to make that all easy, and machine learning and artificial intelligence can fix all this stuff. But there seems to be quite a bit of manual, like consenting and matching. So, and then for the end goal of just seeing previous job history and education. So I'm a little bit skeptical that this is going to be a huge success. It does save you copying, pasting Daryl into LinkedIn and seeing that. But if all you're getting is education and employment history, I'd kind of want to go a bit more and see endorsements and slide shares you've shared, or groups you're a member of. Articles you've written. And I like, it's weird that that's not just there. And they said it's coming, but they weren't very clear on when or what was coming.
Or what's holding it up.
Well, there's that. So my hedge is it'll get there, and they're just very gently tipping their toes to be very mindful of the privacy of me personally owning my LinkedIn profile and my organization owning my directory profile.
I remember sitting beside someone and hearing some comments just afterwards too, like wondering how deep is LinkedIn going to go in sharing information back into the organization? Does this mean that a manager will be able to get an alert to say, oh, such and such has turned on there, I'm looking for a job, I'm advertising, kind of thing? Surely not. But
well, and even I'm not a big user of this because it only seems to be recruiters that use LinkedIn messages. But imagine if your organization could reach in and read the messages, like how far does this consent go? And so I think there's going to be a big hesitation to push that consent button because the message that they showed in the demonstration wasn't that clear on, much like the Microsoft Graph consent stuff. When you, some of it's really good, like when you use our free Hyperfish Lite product, an administrator or an end user can go in and just consent Hyperfish to have, the wording is read to all user profile information. It's very clear what that means, but LinkedIn was a little bit kind of, it wasn't as descriptive that it didn't say we only want to share education and education and employment history. It was a bit broader than that. So hang on, I'm consenting and I'm only seeing these things in the cards, but what else are you doing in the background with my data?
We're getting consent in advance for things we're going to share, but we haven't been descriptive
because they
enough.
Probably don't want to re-consent later to ask for more permissions to other things in LinkedIn. So, I mean, it's the whole don't be evil thing again, I guess, and it was always questionable on with the acquisition of LinkedIn of how far they would go with this stuff. Data is key. Nothing can be intelligent if there's not data in the background. And so, obviously that's a big concern of where this goes.
I mean, even around LinkedIn and completeness of profiles, they've got certain things to prompt you and say, if you want to be a real hero, this is what you need to do to get 100%. But some people are missing details in their LinkedIn profiles as well.
And also job title can often be different in LinkedIn to the job title internally, right? Like everyone kind of fluffs their chests a bit and kind of overstretches on what their title is publicly. And same with skills. Like I've got people that have, for laughs, give me mansplaining as an endorsed skill, and then 50 people have voted it up, and suddenly it's in my top 10 endorsed skills. So how useful is that going to be, and how authoritative is that going to be?
Do I get to pick what actually goes in or not?
So I don't see a mapping with skills. I think if they do get to that point of suggesting, that's great, and it's something actually Hyperfish is working on, is using LinkedIn as a source and suggesting that these skills on LinkedIn could be stored in your Active Directory and Office 365 profile.
But that makes sense.
So in that instance, it's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But at this stage, it's very, very simple, and I'm not knocking it. I've worked at Microsoft, and there are so many teams involved in people cards and different services, and the internal politics of getting agreement to do things. That I really admire how far they've actually got. But it's just something we're going to have to keep track of for sure. And to make it a little product-centric, that's where Hyperfish did step in, because there was a need to get that completeness of the profile. Yeah, it's been funny. Our beautiful booth with the fishes and stuff, You ask people, the first question is, so how bad's your AD? And they're like, well, we've got first name, last name, and some people have photos. And so having a free product that actually helps you go and get all those photos from the users and update AD is great. Mm-hmm. But also, we can provide rules around, here's a list of the official job titles that they can pick from that is company standard, and we'll go and let people know that their job title is wrong in AD because it's not in the standards. Those kind of things of cleaning up your directory is basically what we're laser focused on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, thanks for the talk, Jeremy, and it's really good to get your opinions about LinkedIn because it is big news. I mean, I do like too that there's this Bing for business that also, Bing is just one arm of that unified search, isn't it? Actually, let's just talk about that for a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was at Microsoft, that was internal beta, and it was super useful. Because I didn't have to think about being in two different search engines all the time. And Bing is just there, and basically when I hit bing.com, it would just redirect me to this special edition that hooked into company data. I like the fact that it separates it, so it's clear what's internal and what's not.
Good, yeah.
And so I think, again, they've been dogfooding that internally, and that's what they've been getting at. I definitely think it's the future of search. Mm-hmm. It is interesting they announced this right after Google kind of announced that they're getting rid of their Google appliance as well, which was kind of their play in this space. Microsoft's way more suited for this, being more enterprise orientated than Google is more consumer. And so that journey is going to be really kind of cool from the search perspective as well.
I spoke to an excited Naomi Moneypenny last night, and I really didn't get the pleasure to attend her session.
Oh, she was brilliant.
She's doing some amazing things, and in terms of search, she described it as search is there wherever you are. So, and you're able to search from wherever you are for whatever you need. Yeah,
and I think I use the anecdote of where people cards were in Skype, Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Outlook, and they were all different 2 years ago. And the work that people team have done to get people cards everywhere, search is doing the same thing. So right now, before this intelligent search is released, Outlook search is different from Delve search, is different from Outlook on the web search, is different from SharePoint search, is different from Teams search.
So, we've got that question of what to use when, but people are faced with that question of where to search for what.
Correct, and if I'm in Teams and I do a search, I'm only going to see the Teams results.
Yeah.
So the intelligent search is basically bringing that all together, but it also means that wherever I am, whatever product I'm in, that search box is using a pool of all those results. And so I think it's going to really help with discoverability. It'll get around a lot of these problems of, do I use Teams? Do I use Yammer? Do I use SharePoint? Do I use groups in Outlook? Because it won't really matter so much because you've just got a one search box and see it all.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I think people are really struggling with. And it's a blog post I did from a while ago, and it's been the most hit blog post I've done in probably 5 years.
Right.
So it's a big concern right now of I don't want silos. And so I think the intelligent search solves the silo issue for sure.
Definitely. Well, again, I triggered off another topic there, but it just came to mind. It's all related to search and LinkedIn and finding stuff and finding people. But thank you for talking with us, Jeremy.
No, you're welcome. Awesome. And good to have you here. I know it was a hard slog getting over from
it's well worth it, and I know that I'll sleep for a month after this. But it's I've always had that motto that I'll sleep on the plane, make the most of the experience while you're here, network as much as you can, learn from people,
and then worry about it later.
Yeah.
You got a nice long flight back. I'm doing it at Christmas to go see my family, so I'm not looking forward to it. So.
And your family's in?
They're in Perth, Western Australia.
Even further
the most isolated city in the world.
But it's lovely. It's
very
pretty.
Beautiful, but it's just a long hike.
Yeah. All right. Well, good seeing you, Jeremy.
Cool. Thanks very much, mate.
Daryl for Regarding 365 signing off.
Cheers.